Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Great crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and addressed them. If anyone comes to me without hating his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Which of you wishing to construct a tower does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if there is enough for its completion? Otherwise, after laying the foundation and finding himself unable to finish the work, the onlookers should laugh at him and say, "This one began to build but did not have the resources to finish." Or what king marching into battle would not first sit down and decide whether with 10,000 troops he can successfully oppose another king, advancing upon him with 20,000 troops? But if not, while he is still far away, he will send a delegation to ask for peace terms. In the same way, any one of you who does not renounce all his possessions cannot be my disciple. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Did you hear that? Jesus has just commanded us to hate. He even specified that we should hate those who are nearest and dearest to us. But I was thinking that the good news he brought was all about love. Or did I miss something along the way? Let us take a look at how we got here. Jesus made this pronouncement while he was on his journey to Jerusalem. Remember last Sunday, he made a brief stopover to honor the invitation to a dinner that was hosted by one of the leading Pharisees. Today, he's resuming the journey to Jerusalem. And before going further, he looks at his entourage and seeing how so many were following him, Jesus decides to do a quick reality check. And so, he tells them the requirement, the cost of discipleship. These are the three things required of anyone who wants to continue with him on this journey to Jerusalem. The three things required of a true disciple. 1, hate your immediate family, including yourself. 2, carry your own cross. 3, renounce your possessions. Yes, I get it when Jesus talks about carry your own cross. Yes, it makes a lot of sense to me when Jesus talks about renounce your possessions. But what about hate your family? I've been struggling with this thought for a long time. It was only of recent that I had to go back to my high school seminary, my minor seminary, to get the solution. I grew up being very competitive academically. The system of grading for students in elementary school and high school in Nigeria is such that students are assigned positions in the class based on their scores in assignments, homework, tests, and examinations. And the results, the grades, the positions are made public. I was privileged to be first position in my class for most of my elementary school and high school. And the feeling I got from being first in my class meant so much to me that I could not trade it for any leisure. And also for me, the first position was a kind of incentive to my parents who were sacrificing so much to keep me in a very expensive school. Now I'm going to share with you some of the things I did to maintain what I felt was my birthright, the first position. Being a boarding school, we did a lot of things in common. For example, after the morning class, we came back in the evening to the class for private studies. During some of these private studies, whenever I was tired of studying and I wanted to sleep, before dropping my head on my desk, I look around to see what the student who came second the previous term was doing. If he was sleeping or playing around, I felt safe to sleep. But when I found him studying, even though I was feeling sleepy, I fought it and made sure I remained awake to study because I did not want him to take away my first position. Whenever I found the student who came 10th or 15th the previous term studying all through the night, it did not mean much to me. I continued with whatever I wanted to do. Now, you may not be proud of me for the next one I'm going to share, but trust me, I already went to confession for it. Whenever examinations were approaching, and the student who came second the previous term came to me to ask for some explanations, let's say, how to balance some equations in chemistry, I was usually very prudent in giving explanations. I did not say everything that I knew, for fear that he would take away my first position. But whenever the student who came 10th or 15th the previous term came with the same question, I took my time to explain. I said everything that I knew, and I had to double check to be sure that he got my explanation well and right. Yes, my mantra was, beware of the second best. My principle was, watch out for the second position. In order to maintain my first position, I made sure I monitored all the moves of the student who came second the previous term, to be sure I remained in that position. The first position meant so much to me that I could not take it. I could not imagine to have someone else take it away from me. And that is what Jesus is talking about today. The message from Jesus to us today is, beware of the second position. The message from Jesus to us today is, guard zealously, protect the first position with all that you have, and in every way that you can, and make sure no one takes away that first position from you. But who is the first position here? God is the first position. Heaven is the first position. Our salvation is the first position. And who is the second best here? Who is the second position? The second position falls to our nearest and our dearest, our family members, those who are so close to us. Protect the first position and make sure that your nearest and your dearest do not take away the first position from the one to whom it belongs. For those who are nearest and dearest to us have the high possibilities of taking over from the first position. C.S. Lewis will argue that it is usually not the evil things, but the good things and the noble things that stand as idols, as roadblocks, as detours on our way, on our journey to true joy. The things that are capable of fooling us are the good things. They are so good that they make good counterfeits. Remember what they say, it takes a cent to make another cent fall. In every competition, in every contest, the second position, the second best, is always the greatest threat to the first position. Remember, God is the first position, and nothing is good enough to take away that position from God. No matter how good a thing is, the moment the good thing or the good person decides to take the first position from God, the good thing becomes a demon. After all, who is Lucifer? Remember, Lucifer was an angel of light. He was highly exalted next to God. But as soon as Lucifer attempted to take the first position from God, he was demoted and brought down to the bottomless pit. No matter how good a thing is, if it attempts to take the first position from God, it becomes a demon. You remember the story of Simon Peter? At the point Jesus asked his apostles, "Who do people say I am? And who do you say I am?" When Peter relied on the Spirit of God, he gave the right answer. "You are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus gave him thumbs up. "You are now to be known as Peter, the rock, and on you I will build my church." But shortly after that, Peter decided to go ahead of the Spirit of God. And going ahead of God, he decided to dissuade Jesus, to discourage Jesus from doing the will of God, from going to the cross. And because he went ahead of God, Jesus turned to him and said, "Get behind me, Satan," because the rock of foundation was now becoming a rock or a stumbling block. No matter how good a thing is, if it decides to take the place of God, it becomes a demon. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 30, Jesus will say to his followers, "If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off, for it is better to enter into heaven maimed than to go to hell with your whole body." And so when Jesus says, "Hate your family," he is saying, beware of the second best. When Jesus says, "Hate your family," he is saying, nothing is good enough to take the first position from God. There is no such thing as a part-time Christian. You are either in or you are out. For Jesus says, you are either for me or you are against me. Giving God the first position does not mean spending every moment of our life in the church. It means whether in the church or outside of the church, whatever we do should be at the service of God. And the beauty of it is, when we give God the first position, every other thing will be added unto us. As Matthew chapter 6, verse 33 says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all other things will be added unto you. When you go to the shopping mall and you see something that you like, the next step you take is to check the price tag. How much does it cost? The next step will be to make a decision, either to part with your money and go home with what you have seen, or to go home with your money and to forfeit what you have seen. Today, we have seen discipleship. Today, we have seen heaven. Today, we have seen our salvation. And Jesus has shown us the price tag. Jesus has told us how much it costs. But the question now is, are we ready to pay the price?